Today I'm going to show you 3 easy tricks for tighter, punchier, vibier kick drum, starting with trick number 1. Here's a kick I've cut out of a full loop. Now I can guess what you're thinking, why bother sampling a kick from a loop when there are thousands of clean one-shots? Well, that's often the issue. One-shot samples can often be too clean and a bit boring. Kicks chopped out of full drum loops or breakbeats have percussion layers, noise, dirt and vintage vibe baked in, like this sampled kick, which has a nice character. But there's mid-range stuff and bits of leftover loop that need to be tightened up and carved away. So what I'll do is load Shaperbox on this kick channel. And let's choose Filter Shaper Core, set to the warm 12 dB low pass filter. When I set the LFO to audio mode down here, this filter LFO is re-triggered on every kick. And to make the kick fill the display, I'll set a shorter loop length down here. Now, using the kick on the oscilloscope as a visual guide, I'll draw a filter envelope to filter out the noise after the main transient. And now the kick still has the sampled character I like, but it just sounds much tighter and cleaner with all that extra stuff filtered out. And you can use this trick to shape and clean up any one-shot in even more detail. This is the same envelope, but I've added a small dip here to clean up a noisy tone. Here's with and without the dip. So you can use this ultra-precise filter envelope drawing on any drum hit to tighten and calm down any noise or mid-range in the sustain. And here's the kick in a full beat. For more on this technique, there's an older Cableguys video you can check out. I'll link to that in the description. Now, before we get to the most powerful trick, I'll show you how to fix a common kick problem for tip number 2. This tip is inspired by producer and mixer engineer Fanu, who posted a cool video on his Instagram. Shout out to Fanu. Overdriven kicks are staples in most genres, especially dance music, but it's easy to drive a kick too hard. When the tail gets too overblown, a kick will become, for a lack of a better word, duffy. If you've distorted the kick yourself, you can, of course, distort less. Who would have guessed? But if you're working with a kick with distortion baked into the sample, or if you're mixing stems, here's a way to calm that distortion down and clean things up a bit. So here's a distorted kick. Exactly like before, I've got Shaperbox's filter set to audio mode. Now, the initial punch usually sounds fine distorted. It's the overblown sustain and tail that sounds too much. So just like before, I'll leave the start of the sound unfiltered, and then I'll filter down the body and tail to tame that woolly distortion. This works because distortion adds harmonics, while filtering removes them. You can try different low pass types to find the most suitable filter slope. And you might want to set up a few different curves and click between them to choose your favourite. And to follow, a small EQ dip in the mids can help pull out some of that bloat from the distortion. So here's with the plugins on and off, you can hear the huge difference it makes. Now, when it comes to kicks, this third trick is the most useful and powerful. Listen on good headphones or monitors, and you can hear this kick's subby tail extends out by a long way. In solo, you may not hear a problem, but in the mix, the tail is way too long and it's overpowering my bass. So here is a fast and easy way to solve this. On the kick, here's the same Shaperbox setup as before, except I'm using Volume Shaper. There are a bunch of preset curves down here in the trim section, but I've drawn my own curve here to shorten the kick's tail. So the trick is to carefully trim the length of your kick to fit your mix. Now, you could shorten the length of your kick in audio or MIDI, but this is so much more precise and visual. And because I'm using audio mode, the trimming will always be the same even if I change the kick pattern. Hear the difference in the mix when I bypass the kick's trimming curve. Notice how bloated and messy the low end gets with it off. When it comes to sculpting and tightening your low end, many producers focus on sidechaining, but I find getting the kick length right is just as important. Now, to take your kicks even further and make your drums truly unique, you're going to want to watch this video and check out Shaperbox and our other plugins at cableguys.com.